Dessalines, in Latin America and in the Caribbean.
Right.
Got you.
Nice.
Hey, yo. Can I start things off, man?
Shoot.
I can start things off. Cool. Check it out. You're going to like this. 1, 2, 3. Uplift your economy with Minister Zumbi Shawala. And this is Precise Thinking.
Like I said, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, do for self or suffer the consequences. How the hell do you make the CIA boy the hero when we know what the history has been between the CIA and Africa? Only when the father makes his transition to the ancestral realm of the Agun does the son truly become a man.
Minister Zumbi Shawala, what's good, brother?
Peace. Just trying to stay dry in upstate New York.
I say that. Well, look, Minister Zumbi's Precise Thinking show is all about him. And so we got brother Tariq Copeland on the line with us. What's up, Tariq? How you doing, brother?
Peace.
Yeah, he's my 1911 brother from a different mother. Love my bros, but I give salutes to the noobs. So, Zumbi, where are you taking us today, brother? Where are you taking us today?
Okay, tonight's episode and the title, some of you may be familiar with the title. It's called A Clean Glass of Water. And for those of you who watched the Malcolm X movie, there's a scene where Malcolm and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are in a room. And this is where the messenger has appointed Malcolm the prestige of being the national representative of not just the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but the Nation of Islam. And they were having a conversation and they happened to turn to a table. The messenger has a glass of water and he pulls out some black ink, puts the ink in the water. He says, see this water? This water is foul. If the people don't have a choice, even though they know it's foul, they'll drink it. Then he pours a clean glass of water. And if you offer the people a clean glass of water and put it beside the dirty glass of water, now the people will have a choice because there's more than one option available. Okay, so that's kind of the genesis of the title. The reason I'm bringing this up is because, and we're not talking about this particular show. We're talking about what has gone on, not just in social media, but also in other areas where people, let me grab my notes here so I'm telling you correctly. Social media has become the new CB radio.
Wait. Yo, for those who are uninitiated, in other words, if you young, you don't know what he's talking about. What's a CB radio? What's a C and the B stand for? What you talking about, man?
Okay, well, for those in the 70s who know what I'm talking about when I say CB radio was a way to where you can create avatars and aliases. So you weren't known as, John Q. Smith. You may have been known as Huggy Bear. You may have been known as, fill in the blank. So you were able to create these alter egos. And with these alter egos, basically create, in some ways, an alternative reality. Okay. What's been going on in social media is that you have people who are coming on creating alternate egos. And what they've done is they've turned their platforms into being monetized hecklers. Okay. Oh, thank you. Your handle. Yes. Becoming monetized hecklers who are using their platform to critique ad nauseum, but offer no blueprint, offer no solution. And that's what I mean when I say not offering a clean glass of water for the people. Okay. And I'm going to date myself. If you guys remember the Muppet Show, remember the two hecklers who were up in the stands?
You talking about the old two white dudes, right?
Yeah. That's how a lot of social media has come off. It's like no one is holding people accountable to say, if you're going to critique a situation, where's the clean glass of water? Okay. Where's the clean glass of water? Last week I was watching a lecture done by our ancestor, Dr. Amos Wilson. And he says that the measure of someone's education and someone's intelligence is his or her ability to solve the problems of his or her people. Okay? Not other people, but solve the problems of his or her own people. So, in other words, if you're going to get on here and let's say if you see your people going down the wrong path, whatever that path is, economics, politics, etc., and all you're doing is criticizing the people in their ignorance of going down the wrong path, but yet you don't offer a life raft or at least a better direction to go, then what difference are you really making? You're just piling on a situation that's already desperate. Okay. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I had to bring them up, man, since you mentioned them. So I'm dating myself, and probably these gray hairs are dating myself as well. But that's who you're talking about. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, I want to say salute to Ageless Wisdom Speaks. When you said CB, she's like your handle. She knew exactly what you were talking about.
Right.
That's what's up. And peace.
And so and a couple of other things I'm going to bring up, and then I'll expand the dialogue. What I've seen take place is a thing that Dr. Clark calls showbiz liberation. And what I mean by that is that the only people think that, a liberation movement or a liberation process is getting on the mic, getting in front of a camera, a microphone, saying some nursery rhymes like up with hope, down with dope. And then that's it. Okay. So we've got a lot of these, cyber showbiz liberation pundits who I would like to ask, what are you building away from social media? Is there a platform being built that doesn't require your presence on the internet?
That's an interesting piece, man. Because when we look at what's happening with, I can't think of the football player's name, starts with Jason. It's Jason something. We look at Candace Owens. We look at Roland Martin. We look at Tariq Nasheed. We look at the Black Agenda. No, the Black Authority. Right. We look at Professor Black Truth. We look at Tariq Unloaded. We look at Mechie X. These are a lot of people who have a lot to say online. Mm-hmm. So, but your criticism is some of them. And I'm not saying all of them. Not saying people I just named, but your criticism is that we have too many folk who are talking. Boyce Watkins. Yeah. Yo, salute to the message to the people, the Garvey Army. Boyce. Yeah. So I'm not saying that Mechie, because I know Mechie does her business. I know Tariq is about the business. Professor is about the business. The Black Authority is about the business. Torian Online is about the business. But I think you bring up a really good point here, bro. Really good point. Continue.
Yeah. And, one of the things I thought about, and this is just one of the things that that came to me. Recently, I started working as a volunteer in a food pantry. One of the things that I remember David Banner saying is that if you want to lead the people, you got to feed the people. And so what I wanted to learn was, what would it take to create a food pantry or to create an apparatus, even on a nonprofit level, to be able to feed the people who need it the most. And so far, some of the things I really learned is the need for grant writing. Okay, the need to work with a regional food bank to be able to make sure that you have an adequate supply of food to feed the people when you open up your food pantry. Okay, the need to recruit volunteers, the need to be able to manage people. Okay, so I kind of took that not only as a way to serve the people, but more as a, I guess you would say, a classroom or a learning experience, because we're headed into a situation where some people may not know this, but we're headed for a global food crisis. Okay.
Whoa. Whoa.
And so there's certain skill sets that we're going to need to survive what Alan Greenspan calls the age of turbulence. Okay.
All right. Let me tap in with some of the viewer comments. And Tahid, I definitely want to get your point on this as well. Breakfast program. I'm not sure if that's talking about the Black Panthers breakfast program or she's talking about the Breakfast Club. The Breakfast Club, or yeah. But Umar is a great example of making it happen. This is what the commenter is saying. It looked out. Yeah. So is Umar an example of this?
I would say the jury is still out on Umar. Okay. I would just put it that way. From what I've seen, I would have to say the jury is still out.
Okay. What would you say, Tahid, man? Unmute yourself, man. What do you think? Is Umar bout it, or is he just talking about it?
So personally, I mean, I've met Umar personally, and he's been here in Atlanta a few times at a few events, and I've seen him do the legwork. Yeah, he might come off a bit sensational on these social media platforms, but I think he's one of the ones that's actually willing to put the work in. But like the minister said, yeah, you do have a lot of people capitalizing on, you're famous if you get 100,000 likes or your video goes viral, and you have that automatic, I guess, power, you might say, and people get addicted to that, and they're willing to do and say anything in order to get that number of likes, or however they monetize some of the bombastic things that they say. But at the end of the day, like I my grandmother used to always say, you can make your mouth say anything, but what them legs gonna do? What are them legs gonna do?
What them legs gonna do? Yo, that message can be taken so many different ways.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. I'll tell you what, let's poll the audience. So if you think that Umar, brother Umar is on spectrum, though, even though he's a doctor studying the same spectrum, but he is entertaining. Okay. Yeah, so if you think that Umar is about it, put a 1 in the chat. If you think that Umar's talking about it, put a 0 in the chat. Let's take a quick poll. All right, let's take a quick poll. Let's go back, brother minister. Back to you, bro.
And an interesting word came up in one of the chatters. Entertainment. Okay, and I remember hearing Sister Shahrazad Ali, who says that basically the so-called conscious community or the pro-Black movement, it's become another form of entertainment and not a form of empowerment. Now, that was a criticism that I had of the Black church, where when you go to your house of worship, do you go for empowerment or entertainment? Now I have to expand that question into the so-called culturally conscious community. Because think about it. And since I'm in upstate New York, I'm about 2.5 hours north of New York City. When you go and you look at all of these debates that took place at the National Black Theater in Harlem, okay, where did all that money go? And why is it that if you're charging people $40 a head for a 4-hour verbal battle royal and you haven't bought one building yet?
That's intriguing, brother.
Okay.
That's intriguing because, you know, what's interesting, people who open up churches, they can open up a church with 3-5 members, 3 to 5 members, and they can get a property. They can get control of a property.
Right.
But we're having a lot of debates online. We're having a lot of debates, you know, at somebody's location, at somebody's venue. But there's no control of that venue.
Right.
Possibly. I think there's a joint up in New York, it's a bookstore in New York that may not fit the mold. You know,
Okay.
It may not fit that. But I know we got a lot of conscious heads that come through ATL, man. Do any of them, Tariq, own the properties where they have the conscious conversations?
So one of my mentors and people that I look up to is Dr. Rashad Ritchie. And Dr. Ritchie, he owns his own radio station. He owns multiple radio stations. He was one of the main people that kind of led the charge. I don't know if you guys remember when they first announced they were closing the Atlanta Medical Center. And, you know, basically he was one of the ones that, you know, was trying to get the people to understand that the government was offering the money to the hospital, but the hospital rejected it because you had these big money developers trying to come in and take over that property. Well, you know, as when I give an example about walking the walk and talking the talk, you know, he was able to use his political and you know, because he's a political commentator. He's a doctor. He's in law school. He has his own TV show with the Young Turks. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Dr. Richard before, but it's definitely somebody that I look to when when he says something that is going to be backed up with work, and over and over and over, you know, again, especially in the city of Atlanta, because this is where I concentrate my efforts to try to help my community. There's always, you know, you send an email, he always returns it, right? You call him, you know, it might be a day or two before he returns it, but at the end of the day, he's always the person. Everybody keeps saying, why don't you run for mayor or something like that? But, you know, he always says, you know, I got to be a moving target, right? if you make yourself the main guy, you know, historically we see when the most high power, you know, pulls and chooses a leader that moves the masses, eventually they get killed. So, and it's kind of like one of those things where I think he understands the game, especially when it comes to being in a capitalistic type of society that we're in, that a lot of times money is people's God. You know, that's the God for a lot of people. And they get into it initially maybe with pure ideas, but just with anything, you add a little money and a little power and eventually it becomes corrupt. You know, that goes for religion, politics, education, whatever you want to cover. But for me in Atlanta, you know, Dr. Ritchie is one of those staples that, you know, I know is one of those pure, you know, truth seekers and always, you know, trying to help the community.
Okay, that's dope. It looks like Age's wisdom is like, yo, I'm looking for like-minded folk in ATL. So, you know, maybe you can do a little research, Tariq, on where we can find some like-minded folk. I know my good brother Crumb. You know, tonight we're on Crumb TV. Crumb is out there in ATL. He's not in ATL proper. He's close to ATL. You know, he might be in College Park where, you know, what is it? Colley Park where it's dark, whatever they say.
Colley Park. So the organizations that I'm involved in, that, you know, where we actively go out into the community and to make people aware of new resources, make people aware of the new laws that are being changed. It's called Let Us Make Man, and also Real Men Laugh. Um, Two very good mentorship programs. We focus on the young Black men in these so-called underprivileged communities. But at the end of the day, also of course with my fraternity, we do a lot of outreach. We was handing out turkeys the other day, and yeah. We was handing out turkeys and presents. We take our seniors. I'm part of the Kappa League committee, and like I was telling Say Cool, we take our seniors to Ghana on their senior trip every year before they graduate and get ready to go off and try to make a life for themselves. So I very much believe in making sure my words match my work.
All right, that's dope. Hey, we had a little poll going on, Brother Minister Zumbi, if you will. I'd like to share the results of the poll really quickly.
Yeah, let's see what the people have to say.
Yeah, so the Conscious Conqueror was saying that Umar is a scholar, but is he wise or trustworthy? That's the question. So look, the question was, well, not the question. The direction were, if you think that Umar was bout it, put a 1 in the chat. If you think that Umar is just talking about it, put a 0. Oh, okay. That didn't come off right. Put a 0. Put a 0 in the chat. All right. So let's go through and let's see what people are saying about, talk about Umar. Let's see. So we started off with a 1. All right. Then we had a 0.5. So we have 1.5, we have a 0, and we have another 0, and then we got a half and half. I guess that's another 0.5. So if I add up the 1, the 0.5, and the other 0.5, he's looking at 2 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2 out of 5. That's what? 20, 30, 20, 40. Yeah. So that's 40%.
Okay.
So, right? Yeah. So that's 40%. So King Khan consciousness, in terms of folk thinking that he bout it, we're looking at about 40%. We're looking at about 40%.
The question is, I guess, what determines whether he's about it? Like what's the threshold to prove that you're about it?
Yeah.
Well, this is just a real simple fold. We just got another 1 in. So now it's 3 points out of 6 points. So instead of being 40%, he's at 50%. So I see why there's some speculation. One of the people said, is he trustworthy or wise is the question. He's definitely King Khan consciousness. I remember bringing Umar to Hampton Roads area, the Virginia Beach. This was around 2012. This before he really hit the national stage and got on the Breakfast Club. And I tell you, during that time, man, we helped raise $5,000 for a school. So, when people talk about, if you put money in for a school, that was me. I helped raise $5,000 for Umar's school in 2012 when he first started talking about it. And the way we did it is we charged everyone $25 to come hear him speak. And he did 2 lectures at the Boys and Girls Club in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And we sold a nice amount of tickets. He walked off with 5 G's. Yeah, we were doing the doggone thing, but is he about it, talking about it? It looks right now we're about 50%. Who else could we bring up and see if they're about it, or talking about it? And Taheed, you bring up a good question. What is our criteria? So how can we tell if somebody is dirty water or a glass of clean water?
Especially in this new age of smoke and mirrors, you can appear to be whoever you want. And so how can you discern what is the litmus test, I guess I'm asking, to see if someone's about it or not?
Well, I'll take a page from Dr. Amos Wilson. One of the things that he talked about is being in the process of building institutions and or industries. Okay. So if you're going to be about the business of serving the people, what institutions and or businesses are you building that you can call your own, to where you can work on the issues of your people, not just on a weekend lecture, not just on a 3 to 5 day conference. Okay. Because our people have great needs, you know, whether it's you in the ATL, me in upstate New York, not too close, not too far from New York City. Our people need a lot of stuff, and it can't be done. Unfortunately, it can't be done on a part-time basis. So I think part of the criteria has to be, and the institutions don't necessarily have to start out brick and mortar. Okay. They can start out, you know, online. You know, the technology is there to where if somebody wants to build an online academy, you have Thinkific, Udemy, and, you know, other vehicles to where you can begin to build those academies, at least as a start, until you're in, you know, you're in a position to include or move into a brick and mortar situation.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So the platforms are out there. So you're saying that one of the things that you're saying is that somebody has built something that we can benefit from.
Exactly. And not just, you know, like one of the examples I'll give, and I can't remember the sister's name. She's upstate New York here. She runs the Soul Fire Farm. Somebody in the audience might know who she is, but she put out a book called Farming While Black. And she's really about this whole thing of urban farming, this whole thing of getting us reconnected to the land again. Because one of the things that happened during that Great Migration is when we left the South for whatever reason, and we started going into these cities in the Northeast and in the Midwest, within 2 generations, a lot of what our ancestors brought with us, the canning, the jarring, hunting skills, gardening skills, got lost because we got industrialized and urbanized. Now we're in a situation where we got to start paying white folks tons of money to learn how to can and jar.
Oh. So are you saying as we've become more technologically advanced, we've become more stupid? We've become less able to provide for ourselves. We've become less empowered.
Well, I think Carter G. Woodson said that in Miseducation of the Negro. You know, he may not have used those exact words, but the sentiment is the same. Okay, so that's why I said that there are things that we have to begin to reteach ourselves, you know, for those of us who are in urban environments. You know, how do we learn how to can and jar again? How do we learn how to teach people to have a pantry in their home again, and what needs to be in that pantry that could hold them for 30, 60, 90, almost 180, almost up to a year? Okay. And I may not have told this story before. When I was playing junior college football, I was in Iowa, and I stayed with a Mormon widow, and we were cleaning up around the house. And I go downstairs, and for a minute, I thought I was in BJ's, you know, with all of the bulk food and everything that was down there. And so I asked her, what was this? And so she sat me down and explained that in the Mormon tradition, when Joseph Smith was given his vision to go west because he was in Pennsylvania,
right?
They went on this westerly accord, lost a lot of men along the way. By the time they reached Utah, 2 things came out of that. 1, polygamy, and 2, ideally every Mormon should have a food pantry that could sustain them for up to 1 year. Okay.
All right. I mean, the polygamy thing just kind of cracked me up.
Yeah,
but I think that is an interesting piece. So they came off and they realized, based upon our sojourn and what we lost in our sojourn,
right,
we got to start doing some things specific, and we ain't got to worry about what anybody else is doing. That's none of our concern. We have
Right.
to stay on code for us.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that code was to be able to provide for themselves in every way, shape, and form possible.
Right. Because
Yo, I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, because the one thing we have to understand is, and I think it was Dr. Amos Wilson again, he says part of the objective of what education is the biological survival of a people. So whatever it is we're learning, I don't care if you're at a major university, a HBCU, you have to ask yourself, how will this degree help the collective survival of African people?
Yo, can we even think that way? Is it too far gone? Tahid, you're an educator. You know,
Yeah.
are we too far gone? So to be able to tell our youth them, hey, no matter what you do, wherever you go, you have to make sure you come back and serve the collective in some form or fashion. Is that even practical?
I kind of look at it from a historical perspective. You know, when free public education was invented, right? You know, Dwight D. Eisenhower said, "I don't want to create a nation of thinkers. I want to create a nation of workers," and that's what basically public education does. It creates more workers. So they teach, go to school, go to college, get a degree, get a good job, so you can start paying basically back into the system. So not they don't teach you to be entrepreneurs or to be critical thinkers. That's contrary to what capitalism wants, and especially when it comes to people in our community. Like who do you think is the largest?
Did we lose the brother?
Yeah, he looks like he froze on us.
All right.
And,
all right. Well, while he's coming back in, the good Noble New Esco. I kind of like that. Noble New Esco kind of puts me in the frame of a Nasir Jones. All right. I just want to build without loans, credit, or debt. All it takes is 30 so-called black to live and buy something together that makes money the people can see. I like to speak on that, man, because what he's describing there is what we call a syndication. And so a syndication is where a group of people put their funds, their resources together, and then they take those resources and do an investment. Right? All right. So in like my family right now, we have one syndication for our family. So a bunch of my like-minded cousins, we came together, and every month we throw in a certain amount of money, and every month we invest some of our money that we've collected, and we invest in either the stock market, or we invest in startup businesses, or we invest in current businesses that need funding. You know, so that's a syndication.
Okay, well, the term I use in my book is the susu.
Yeah, a susu is a different version of that. Right. Now we do it. Everything is legal. You know, we have an LLC. We keep records on everything. It's a really good process. I'm actually getting ready to start another syndication. I'm not going to talk about that just yet because I'll wait till it gets started. We had some really great questions and really great comments. Are the Ashkenazis in power about it? That's an interesting question. I'll say Ashkenazis. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. In Trinidad and Tobago, they still have susus.
Okay.
Before we go, what about Barack Obama? Is Kanye West about it? So I wanted to give you some food for thought. Barack, Kanye, the Ashkenazis, you know, what do you think, brother? We're gonna come back to this comment by Ageless Wisdom Speaks.
Thanks, suppressing. Okay, so in the case of Barack Obama, he's what I would call a dummy corporation. And the reason I say that is because if you look at how Barack Obama was manufactured, if you will. Okay. His mentor, when he reached Harvard Law School, was former NSA director Zbigniew Brzezinski.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh.
That was his mentor. Now, Brzezinski Brzezinski wrote a book called Out of Control. In the book, he says that the biggest threat to global white hegemony was young urban black males 25 and under, because they deal with life and death situations on an everyday basis. If they turn the guns on us, it's lights out. Now, I'm paraphrasing what Brzezinski said, but that was Barack Obama's mentor. Okay. And there was another thing that Brzezinski said. He said this in a memo. He said that the greatest threat, now he wrote this during the time that the brothers in Zimbabwe was gaining their independence from the British, when it was still called Rhodesia. He said in a memo that the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States of America was black on black unity.
Did he say black unity or black on?
Well, black unity, basically.
Black unity, yeah.
Yeah. So this is what so when we saw this, now we knew what type of mindset Obama was going to bring into the White House. Because remember, he doesn't have the burden of slavery on him. Okay. He's coming from a whole different paradigm. So it's easy for him to sit up here and lambast African nations, to talk to black men in America in a greasy fashion, because he doesn't come from that reality. And that's why I said he's a dummy corporation, because we didn't create him. We didn't create his mindset. We didn't create his culture. Okay. So that's why I said he's a dummy corporation. As far as Kanye goes, what makes Kanye dangerous is the fact that right now he is operating from a spirit of spite. Okay. Here's what I mean. The very people that he's trying to out now and scorch the earth, if those very people were to offer him an invitation back into the house, all this he would drop immediately. That's why I said he's operating from a spirit of spite. So you can't trust him. And plus, he doesn't know how to shut his mouth either. When you move in arenas of power, there's a certain way you have to conduct yourself and, carry yourself. So you can't act like you on, Southside Chicago when you're in these arenas of power. Okay. And when you're in these arenas of power, and this is something that I tell young brothers, when you sit at the round table of power, leave your emotions at the door.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Taheed, man, I'd like to get your thoughts on President Obama. Was he about it, or was he just talking about it? And I like what Unoccupied Turtle Island. Oh, I like that. Unoccupied Turtle Island.
Mm-hmm.
This is our land. Get off of it. I like that. I like that. Okay. All right. I'm representing that. Okay. Taheed, was President Obama about it, or was he just talking about it?
So when I look at particularly President Obama, again, I'm always looking at it from a historical perspective, and I'm looking at the numbers. When we look at what did he actually accomplish for Black people? Like, what did he do? Obamacare? Like, who has that? So, I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't say Obama was about it because he didn't use the powers of the presidency to the full extent that he could have to benefit people with permanent suntans. But at the end of the day, you had he did inspire a whole bunch of Black people to come out and vote. That was good. But at the end of the day, Like what policies, what concrete policies can we put our hands on to say, okay, there was a significant change in black net worth during Obama's presidency, or um, what was the net? Did he let anybody out of jail like Trump did? Remember Trump pardoned all these black folks? You know, Obama gave him cell phones, but Trump gave him $1,200. So it's like,
wait, wait,
That's
wait,
real.
wait, wait, wait.
I'm being
You say
serious.
that
Like,
That's
Trump
real.
gave him freedom and Obama gave him cell phones?
he gave him cell phones, right? And it wasn't the cool cell phones; it was the cheap ones, the cheap track
Right.
phones. So when we're looking at it and comparing it, I'm not surprised when I walk into the barbershop and I hear black men saying, "Hey, Trump was better than Obama." Like they really support and they don't care about him saying he'll grab a woman by the vajayjay, or some of the other racist stuff he said. Again, in this capitalistic society where money is the god, whoever is perceived to be the one that's going to give me the most money, regardless of their moral character, their moral fiber, because obviously you can't compare Obama and Trump when it comes to like things like morality, I guess, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to fiscal policy and whose pocketbook benefited the most and when,
Mm.
it's no, the numbers don't lie.
Well, the numbers also show that the last 2 years of President Obama's administration, the economy was going up
Yeah.
and the employment rate was dropping. And so while President Obama inherited a low employment rate and a high and a low economy, Trump benefited from a high employment rate and a high economy, and he tripled it. So I'm not taking anything away
I
from
mean,
what either one of them
perception.
did, but
Yeah.
when you talk about the numbers,
Yeah.
so let
I
me
mean,
get. I like your point
perception
though.
is everything. It's just like now Biden is being blamed for everything that Trump did wrong, but he's being blamed for it because he's inheriting it, just like Obama inherited, you know, everything that was going wrong in the previous presidency. But perception wise, you don't really have people doing this type of research and saying, oh, you know, Barack Obama had his hands tied because he didn't have control. They blocked everything he tried to do, but employment went up. But again, who's the largest employer of black people in America?
Ooh, that's a Minister Shawala
Yeah.
question.
It's the
The
government.
right.
It's the
It's the
government.
government. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
federal, state, local. From
County.
people like me that are teachers working for the government, firefighters, all the way up through the military. Right.
Mm.
The main people that employ black people is the government, right?
Right.
So yeah, employment was going up. We was still paying back into the same system. So were we really benefit? I don't know if you get
Ooh,
my.
I think that's a deeper question.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
But so Tahid, man, President Obama,
Yeah.
0 or 1? Was he talking about it or about it?
So I'll never give Obama a 0. Right? I went to Washington and I shook hands with the president. When he came to Atlanta, I got pictures. He high fiving my daughter. Like I will never knock the first black president. Well, the first acknowledged black president, right? But at the end of the day, I still felt like he didn't stick his neck out far enough for us.
All right. Okay. When you say the first acknowledged black
Yeah.
president, are you referencing John Hanson? Because John Hanson never was president.
I mean, let's talk about Abraham Lincoln.
Okay. All right. What? Okay. But you know what? this is Zumbi show. But
Well,
I mean, you got a good point. Zumbi, can I do the quick poll real quick, and then we'll let you roll with your beautiful.
okay. What poll we want?
Tahid, you and I can talk all day. I can see.
Yes,
all right.
sir.
The poll was on President Obama. Was he about it, or was he talking about it? So we have 1-0, We got 2 zeros, 3 zeros, and Tahid gave him a half point.
I got one. I'm gonna get one on mine.
Okay, you're gonna give him one. Okay,
Yeah.
and it looks like okay. Yeah, so we had 3 people to vote, and he got 1%. 1 point. So that's 25%. All right.
Yeah.
Look, you already talked about Kanye, and it's interesting because somebody said that Kanye is a bit of a wild card.
Mhm.
All right, but his point about lacking discipline is interesting. Dick Gregory was the first unofficial black president. Okay, you got to tell us more about that. Hey, we had somebody ask, is Candace Owens about it?
Hell
Now,
yeah.
no.
She's about it, but she's
No.
not about it for us. But she's about that life.
No.
She's
Well,
but she's just not for us.
here's my problem with Owens. Anytime you come out and say that British imperialism was a net positive for Africa, I got problems. Serious problems. And she said this right on the tail of the passing of Queen Elizabeth. Now, I don't understand why we have certain segments amongst our people that are giving her a pass and looking at her as intelligent and articulate. She's an enemy of the state. Period.
Totally. Candace Owens is about that life. She'll say any and everything to make her purse fatter. And she's not embarrassed. She don't care about who she pisses off. I'm talking about somebody that goes hard. Like, that's how I want Obama to go. I would have wanted Obama to go for us. Just go in. I'm the president, damn it, and just make, do unprecedented things though. Like Candace Owens, she says things that make black people say, "Wow, I can't believe she's saying that." Where's the motivation, right? Why do you think she does that?
All right, so I guess we need to do the Candace Owens poll. So while Minister Zumbi talks, if you think that Candace Owens is about it, one in the chat. If you think that Candace Owens is talking about it, put a 0 in the chat. All right, Zumbi, go ahead.
Yeah, and see, this goes to the crux of tonight's conversation. She's basically a shock jock political commentator.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm saying for African people, we don't really have time to be entertained by shiny objects. Okay. Here's what somebody said to me earlier this morning. All right. Candace Owens, they say, oh, she's articulate, oh, she's beautiful or whatever. But like a pit bull, she'll never be in the house. She will always be the pet and the mascot. See, this is where we have to understand what real power is about. And let's stop getting all excited because you see black faces in high places. See, and I talk about this in my book, and I'll pour it out in a minute. There's a term that I use called the black hand theory. The black hand theory says it is the people that you rarely see, hear, or discuss who are the true shot callers, the true check writers, and the true policy makers. All right. So we talk about Candace Owens, but can anybody tell us who is the CEO of the American Enterprise Institute, which is a conservative think tank that has produced a lot of these shock jocks
and policy?
Okay. And we can mention Candace Owens, we can mention Larry Elder, Michelle Malkin, and we can go down the list. Okay. So my whole thing is, if you're going to be about it, whatever that is, okay, are you about it for the highest and greatest good of your people? That's really the bottom line.
Oh, okay. So we probably should have used that as the litmus test to determine if Candace Owens was about it, or talking about it. So you're saying if Candace is using her time, talent, and treasure to further our people, she would get a 1. If she's just talking and she's not doing anything for our people, she would get a 0. Is that correct, Minister Zumbi?
That's it. It's simplistic, but it's a start, because the one question I've always had about Black conservatives is, what have you found in America worth conserving? I mean, let's be honest. What have you found in America worth conserving? It's almost like you've jumped from one plantation to the next. And from the Black conservatives that I've seen, you've really been nothing but pets and mascots for right-wing white imperialism. No different than the ones on the left who have been pets and mascots for white imperialism on the left. Okay, so do any of these Negroes serve the interests of African people domestically and globally? That's the real crux of it. And does your behavior and does your portfolio match your tongue?
Intriguing.
So we know Candace doesn't like Black people, but at the end of the day, she's conserving her pocketbook, and these people are paying her to be that distraction, right? We're talking about Candace Owens. Meanwhile, they sneaking Ron DeSantis, and he's going to be the next president.
Yeah, it looks like they are trying to do a nice move to get Ron DeSantis in.
Yeah. He's going to be the next president.
Well, okay. He'll definitely be the next Republican. You think he's going all the way? It's a wrap. You think he's going all the way?
Who's going to run against him? Joe Biden? Kamala Harris? Who they going to get? Unless y'all know something I don't, please tell me. Like who's going to beat Ron DeSantis?
Well, I mean, for me, I've always subscribed to what Lord Rothschild always said. Give me control of a nation's economy. I don't care who's in office. And, coming from an economic position, I've always asked the question, when are we going to build up our own? See, it seems like we are always looking outside of ourselves for salvation or for a savior or for, whatever. And I'm always asking the question, can we start in the mirror? Can we start in our communities first? Okay, because that's where the real fight is. Whatever somebody does on 1600 Pennsylvania Ave, to me, that's just ear, sex, and hoe chatter. Okay, the real question is, what are we doing at ground zero? And this is kind of the crux of what I was going back into with tonight's show about what are we building? What solutions, what blueprints are we presenting to the people? Because the people are looking for answers, and they're not going to get them in City Hall or the state capitol or the White House. And we have to have the mentality of we're on our own, because in a number of ways we are. Okay, so we have to really begin to start asking ourselves the whole thing with reparations. Okay, what happens if you don't get reparations? Then what? What's plan B? Because
I think you're putting the cart before the horse in that one.
Well, no, but I'm just saying as an example, because again, we have to start thinking as if it's just us. That's the mentality that we need to have now, that nobody's coming to our rescue. The only thing that we can rely on is our self-reliance, self-sufficiency, interdependence within our independence, and our spirituality. That's all we got.
I support Link.
The internet off to do that. In order for us to get back to that way of thinking, we got to shut the internet off. And that's not going to happen. Because the internet is here to stay.
Here's my thing.
Zumbi, you got it exactly.
Okay. Because
ageless wisdom says exactly. And I said her name correctly this time.
Right. Because here's my thing. Okay. We're past the 2-minute warning. So are we just going to sit on the sidelines until the clock goes 0? Or do we do something? Okay. I'm at an age where, for me, everything is about solution and execution. And what am I going to leave for the next generation? Because the next generation cannot inherit rhetoric, ear sex, and hoe chatter from me, or at least from me and my contemporaries. Okay. Because they deserve more and they deserve better. So this ain't even about me. It's bigger than me.
Well, ever since we put that qualifier, to determine if Owens was about it or talking about it, we've only gotten 2 votes. We got a 1 and we have a 0. And I think that's the interesting thing about people like Candace Owens. They do a great job of talking, whatever their position is they're talking about. But, what else has she done? Somebody might say, well, she put out that documentary on Black Lives Matter. But it really wasn't her documentary. She was starring in it. Another company put out the documentary. It wasn't hers. So here's another example where we're not running the board. They might put us in front of the team. We might be on the starting lineup, but we don't own the team. We don't own the basketball court. We don't own the net. So I think that Candace Owens is another good example that we've got to become more about it. So we did have a comment that I wanted to highlight. I thought it was kind of intriguing. So all the Black people you're speaking of have no political pull, only opinion. Interesting. Yes. They pick movie stars, athletes, and comics to be their leaders in our community, but isn't the same in other ethnic groups. Yes. We are the only ones who have entertainers as spokesmen for the race. Now, I'm not sure if that's entirely, totally true, but I tell you what, on his face, I have to agree.
Malcolm said this 60 years ago. And between 1963 and today, what's really changed? Okay. Show me in the Italian community, has anybody ever put a microphone to Robert De Niro or Al Pacino to ask about Italy's economy?
Well,
okay. But I'm just saying, and the same thing. You don't hear anybody going to Dustin Hoffman to ask about issues in the Jewish diaspora.
Okay, now I'm seeing your point.
So now the question is, why is it that we've got people who are unqualified to deal with certain questions and certain issues trying to answer? Okay, you've been trained to be a gladiator and a court jester your entire life. Now you're getting into arenas of power. You can't even dictate policy in your own industry.
Ooh.
Okay, so
hey, salute to England. Salute to the folks in Manchester.
Right. So what I'm saying is, okay, everybody's sitting up here. Oh, Floyd Mayweather, blah blah blah, this, that, and the third. But it was Jerry Cooney who was pushing to have a boxers union. Not Money Mayweather. So we have to make sure we understand there's a distinction between cash and power.
Intriguing. Okay. All right, so Zumbi, I know that this is precise thinking with Minister Zumbi, and today we had the good brother, my brother from another mother with the 1911 connection. Yeah. Let me throw my hook up. Tonight's show, you talked about a clean glass of water.
Yes.
I think we've done a lot of great examples talking about the dirtiness of some of the water. Can you give us an example of a clean glass?
Well, not to be self-promoting.
But you are.
Okay. So this book that I'm holding up right here is called The Gospel of Afro-Nomics Theology. I took 22 years of personal experience and research in business to develop a Black economic blueprint for the 21st century and beyond at a grassroots level. Okay. I wanted to write something where it can pass the Pookie, Ray Ray, and Junebug test, because there's been things that have been put out there that, yeah, may be great for intelligentsia or academia, but what about the brother or the sister who drives the bus, who drives the bread truck for the company, or the one who drives a cab? You know, how does a single mother of 3 improve her financial condition without having to risk other things? So that was one of the things that I wanted to address with this book, which is now going to be a series. I'm already working on the expanded edition of it. I talked about earlier taking time out to be a volunteer inside a food pantry to understand how a food supply chain works and how to make sure that the people you intend to serve can be fed. Okay. So these are just things that can be done individually, because I always say revolution begins in the mirror, not in the public. It begins in the mirror.
Okay. Yeah, that message was for Tahid.
Okay.
Revolution begins where?
In the mirror. That's where it begins. And from there, because the greatest revolution is with you. I think our Islamic brothers always said that there are 3 jihads, or 3 struggles. The struggle between 2 people, struggle between 2 groups, but the ultimate struggle is with self. If you can revolutionize yourself and overcome self, now you can begin to revolutionize others.
Okay. Hey, can you we're going to bring this to an end.
Yeah.
We're going to bring this to an end. This was an intriguing conversation. But Conscious Conqueror asked the question, what about other ethnic groups having leaders that some would say are evil, like Putin, Pablo Escobar, North Korean leaders? At least our leaders are not completely evil. Is that something that we should pop our collar on and say, hey, we may not be in power, but at least our leaders are not completely evil?
Well, I would be very careful with that. And I'll tell you why. There's a nasty disease amongst our people, which I call the Judas factor. Okay. Look at what Mobutu did to his homeboy, Patrice Lumumba. All right. Look at what happened when Kwame Nkrumah was in Vietnam and basically got overthrown. All right. Look at what happened. What has Harlem been since Adam Clayton Powell left us?
Okay.
So before we start sitting here trying to be all sanctified and righteous, again, like the brother said, let's take a historical concept.
Okay.
And look at, have we done right by our own people?
Well, you know what? That's a good point, bro. And I think that's a really good point to end tonight's show on. Yeah. I think that's a good point to end tonight's show on. So, Zumbi, if you can hold up your book again, The Gospel of Afro-Nomics Theology, you can find that book on Amazon. You can find it at your own melanated bookstore. I like what Shantae Miles has. We need to be prepared. The brother is right and exact. We must have a plan. We only have each other. Our leaders have been telling us that we have no friends, politically, financially, or socially. We have no friends.
And one other thing, if you want an example of having a blueprint or a plan, go study China's 100-year plan. When Chairman Mao Zedong came to power in 1949, there was a 100-year plan installed. So by the year 2050, China will be the big man on campus. Okay. So for those of us who are serious in terms of serving the people and leading the people, regardless politically, economically, or otherwise, go study China's 100-year plan. I think you'll find that very interesting. And there's certain things that we can take from that 100-year plan that we can apply to ourselves. Like one of the things I'm working on now for the next book is to start getting us thinking in 12-week or 90-day windows. So that way we can begin to think more scientifically in terms of how we want to move and not run around here, grown folks sitting up here yelling nursery rhymes. That's not a blueprint for power.
Got you. Hey, okay. Look, so one of the strategies that we're going to leave you with is pick up Zumbi's book or, find it online. Check out some of the earlier episodes of Get on Code and Precise Thinking, because we go in really good depth with his book. I want to show one of the strategies that I'm working on. So, we can't just be dirty water up here ourselves. We can't just be talking about the problem and not doing something about it. So this is what I'm doing in my area of Hampton Roads, 757. Within the so-called black community, money circulates, stays in the community. One day in our Latino community, it stays in 1 week. All right. And in the Asian community, 30 days. Jewish community a little more than that, and then general white community stays in there for unmeasurable amount of time. So the HR Green Book is our strategy to address circulation. It's simply a directory in online and in an app form that's coming soon, where we can find our business. Let's see who we have here. So right now we have 14 food trucks. Let's look at restaurants. Right, so let's say I want to look at a restaurant. Let's go with DJ. Let's see who else is out here in the DJ world. Hampton Road. List your business. You simply go to list with us, and you'll see that there's some options. And we invite everyone to take free option for right now. So start your search today. HR Green Book, and let's make sure our money circulates stronger and longer. Right. So that's one of the things we're doing in the Hampton Roads area to make sure that our money circulates stronger and longer. And so there are a lot of initiatives, and I tell everybody, hey, find the initiative near you and work with it. So you're not just talking on social media about the problem, So, hey, Tahid, man, what's happening in ATL, man? Where can people find your movements in the ATL? What do they need to look up?
So I'm going to show you real quick it's a similar app that we have here in Atlanta. It's called Black Friday 52. And it's the same type of app where you pretty much, if you're searching for a restaurant, you're searching for a barbershop, a chiropractor, a dentist, and you want to support Black-owned businesses, you can put in the location, the keywords, a similar type of idea that me and some of my colleagues and some of my fraternal organizations, my frat brother, actually, he's responsible for releasing the app. But
there you go again. You keep, yeah. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
But the whole, keeping our money in the community, I totally support that. And I try to the best of my ability to propagate that and to push that, because at the end of the day, like he was talking about, what's in your pantry? You know what I mean? How long can you survive? See, I'm from the country, so it's never been a time where I ain't had a dog and a gun. So at the end of the day, my grandma, she taught us, it was funny when he was talking about the jarring and canning. I remember my grandma doing that, right? So and one of the main reasons why I'm the main cook at my house, and I make sure that my garden outside stay fresh. I can walk outside and get me a nice piece of squash right now. But you know, I try to push that and propagate that, and just to make sure that we become a collective, because they've done a great job at separating us and making us adversarial to each other. When
Right.
at the end of the day, we should be embracing each other. And I love your idea, and I'm definitely gonna order that book on Amazon, because I like what you're saying, and I feel like we're on the same page, and I enjoy the meeting of the minds. I appreciate the opportunity.
I say that. Minister Zumbi,
Yes, sir.
last words, man.
Oh, before I forget, since the brother brought up what's going on in the ATL, and you can do this in Hampton or anywhere, be a $20 revolutionary. That is the new campaign for 2023. Being a $20 revolutionary means this: every African person should make a weekly $20 purchase from a Black-owned business, be it brick and mortar or e-commerce. What this does is this: now we begin to finance our own liberation by financing those businesses that serve our needs with their products and services. Okay. You don't have to leave your frat. You don't have to leave your political party. Just practice being a $20 revolutionary every week. It's simple, but it's very profound.
All right. So this has been a clean glass of water. The show is Precise Thinking with Minister Zumbi Shawala. We had the good brother, my brother from another mother, 1911. Love. Yeah, we go back and forth. Like I said, man, the campus started the fight in 1911. We ended the fight in 1911. So it's all good. It's the fight for our people. Hey, look.
Yes, sir.
The sun is love. All right. Hey, but you know what? If I'm living out in ATL and I want to catch up with those two organizations you talked about, brother, how can ageless wisdom?
Yes. So all she has to do is
wouldn't that be the perfect name
ageless
for a lotion?
Kind of
Yo, ageless wisdom.
Yes.
You look good and you're wise. Yo, ageless wisdom. You need to copyright that name and do something with it. For real. You can't just let that beauty go to waste. Make some money off of it.
But if she wants to connect, she can just Google "Let Us Make Man," and the website will pop right up, and it tells you how to get involved. Whether you want to actually get hands on, or you want to support financially, or whatever you want to do, but do something that's helping our community progress forward, and that's all we care about.
Right.
All right. So let us make man. Let us make money. Let us make a movement. Let us make a change. And as I always say, drink your water.
Yes, sir.
Indeed.
Peace.
Peace.